يا رب إنك مقصودي
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، وعلى أصحاب الغر المحجلين الذين آمنوا به وعزروه ونصروه واتبعوا النور الذي أنزل معه، أولئك هم المفلحون. ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين. أما بعد. We're here to discuss the imperative nature of knowledge, and many here are connected with Majalis al-Ilm, the gatherings of knowledge, so it's something that we're already aware about. Every single believer should have this understanding and awareness that the whole of this religion revolves around knowledge. It begins with knowledge, it ends with knowledge. And all between is just a process of trying to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He wants from us. The whole journey of our existence is a journey of realization of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ma'rifatullah ta'ala. And it's through this knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises those who believe, and those that He bestowed and granted them knowledge in ranks and in degrees. A person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honors with knowledge, He's given him all good. He's given him all good. But a person who's deprived of knowledge, who's jahil, who's ignorant, and worse than that is jahil murakkab, who's ignorant but he doesn't realize that he's ignorant, or she doesn't realize that she's ignorant, has been deprived of all khair, has been left in the worst of all states. Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fid din. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for you, He doesn't make you an abid, He doesn't necessarily make you a worshipper, He doesn't necessarily make you a hafiz of Quran. Al-khayr fi din bil-fiqh, bil-tafaqquh fi dinillah. Al-khayr, the goodness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sign, the alamat al-khayr, the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires good for you, is not that you go to majalis al-dhikr or majalis al-Quran and so on. It's that you're grounded in understanding. You have this grounded understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here we don't refer to fiqh as the technical science. We're not talking about ahkam, halal and haram, because that itself could distance you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we're talking here about a broad understanding of this religion, understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, trying to bring that into your being. That's yufaqihu fid din. That's the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives fiqh of religion, the one who gives fahm of religion. Because lughatan al-fiqh bima'na al-fahm. Because in the language of the Arabs, the word fiqh itself means understanding. So alamat al-khayr, the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you, the sign that He wants good for you, the sign that He's chosen you, is that He puts you on the path of knowledge. Is that He opens up the doors of the light of knowledge in the times of deep darkness. These are dhulumat, these are times of dhulumat, these are times of hayra, times of darkness and times of confusion where people don't know what's right from wrong. And for the believers, part of the reason why we don't know what's right from wrong is that we've been cut off from the source by which we can know what's right and wrong. We don't have that connection to the anwar of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't have that connection to the light of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It shone 1400 years ago and continues to shine and will continue to shine. And will shine until the very last moment of existence in this world. But it only becomes dim when the darkness within us becomes stronger. Only that light of the Prophet is always there. It just needs us to connect and take something from that. But when the darkness within ourselves becomes stronger and stronger, we fail to see the light, even though it shines brightly. Even though it shines brightly, and it will never stop shining. So alamat al-khayr, the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves a person, the sign that He's content with the person, is that He puts him in the path of knowledge. And particularly in these times of darkness, times of confusion, times where people don't know what's right from wrong, times where people speak in the name of religion, have no right to speak in the name of religion, of no connection back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-isnadu min ad-din, walawla al-isnadu laqala man sha'a ma sha'a. And this is the visionary words of Abdullah ibn Mubarak, who's speaking about you and I right now. Who spoke, he's from Zaman as-Salaf, he's from the time of the Tabi'een, the third generation. And he said words where he foretold what most of us are doing, the path of misguidance of many of us. He said, al-isnad min deen. There has to be connection to your shuyukh, connection to the people of guidance, spiritually, outwardly, inwardly. There has to be that connection. There has to be that connection where you sit at the feet of those who've taken from the reliable sources of this religion. That's al-isnad, it's that connection. Sanad is, even in hadith, in mustalah al-hadith, when they speak about sanad, they just said it's al-isnad dhikr al-rijal. That's all it is that you mention the men of that chain, the people, the narrators of that chain. Al-isnad is what? Is that you're part of that connection, that you take from the rijal Allah ta'ala, that you take from the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَوْلَا الْإِسْنَادُ لَقَالَ مَنْ شَاءَ مَنْ شَاءَ وَنَحْنُ قُلْنَا مَا شِئْنَا وَمَنْ شَاءَ. Now, we've now fallen to what he foretold. He said, if it had not been for the system of Isnad, where you take from your shuyukh, you take from people of spiritual guidance and people of knowledge, if it's not for this system, anybody says whatever they want. And we're now in the time, everybody says whatever they want. People speak with no authority in this religion. And Allah subhanahu warned, and He coupled it with shirk. Where He said, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ أَن تُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That you ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala things that you have no knowledge of. You lie against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You come to an ayah of the Quran and you start saying that this is what it means, and you have no authority to speak about that. You didn't hear that from anybody of authority. You didn't do naqal of it. You didn't transmit it from somebody of authority. You just received an email. You received a WhatsApp message. You received a post and you forwarded it, not knowing where it came from. Al-isnadu min ad-deen. And you have to have that connection to the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without that, you just see the darkness that spread amongst Muslims. They don't know what to do. And Muslims who speak in the name of religion who don't even know how to pray properly. They can barely read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if they do, they barely read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They hardly read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In these times of confusion, in these times of darkness, in terms of knowledge of religion, it needs that we reconnect. We need that reconnection. We need to find who are these people who carry that light of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because that light will never go out. But it's about identifying who they are. But when people are immersed in this dunya, and our only concern, our only pursuit is dunya, is this world, it's about amassing wealth. At-takathur, alhaakum at-takathur. It's made us forget everything. This takathur has made us forget those things that really matter. Just amassing wealth and hoarding wealth as though that we think akhlada, that it's going to make us live forever. But when we do that, what happens then? We're blinded from that light, the darkness of the dunya. Because of that, we fail to see what's sat in front of us. We have people who still transmit. They're sat in front of us, they're in our communities, they're all around us, but we're just so busy in the filth of this dunya, in the sewage that is this dunya, that we fail to see those who are calling and carrying that knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need that reconnection to the people of knowledge. We need that reconnection to people who carry that knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those who carry that knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to bring life back to that knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because that knowledge is a nur, it's a light, and that light must emanate and shine within us. And then, when we understand the serious nature of this affair and the crises, the fundamental root cause of the crises within this ummah, it's that disconnection from these people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who carry that knowledge, the one that the Prophet spoke about, al-ulama warathatul anbiya. These are warithin. These are al-warithin al-kummal. These are the complete inheritors of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They didn't receive dirham or dinar. They didn't receive wealth. They received the real thing, which is light. It's al-ilm. It's light that shone 1400 years ago from Ghari Hira, and it never stopped shining. There were those who received it direct. Abu Bakr received it direct. Umar received it direct. Uthman, Ali, all of these great people of Allah, they received it direct, and they spread that light. They spread, like Imam al-Luqnawi rahmah, when he speaks about the Madhahib al-Arba', when he speaks about these four schools, orthodox schools, which everyone has to have a connection to, he begins by saying, he says, منبع العلوم كلها هو سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. The source of all of these knowledges, that the Sahabi, he says that they drank this knowledge from the Prophet ﷺ. They then gave it out. They gave it out. And he said the Imams of the Tabi'een and the Mujtahid Imams, he said, Hatharu, they're the ones who dug the canals, the channels from which the rivers flow. And he said, now we're still drinking from that water. We're still, but what did he say? He says, Manba'ul ulum wa Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The source of all of this knowledge, anything that we speak about in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any words that are uttered, we're ascribing it back to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because he's the source of everything. He received everything and he gave out everything he was required to receive. Because he never spoke from himself. And that's the fitna of our time. When we speak about matters of religion without any authority about it, you say, I believe this is it. I think this is my opinion. The Prophet ﷺ never once held an opinion on matter. His opinion was the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word of Allah. He never once spoke from himself. In huwa illa wahyun yuha. And we hardly ever speak from Quran and Sunnah. We hardly ever refer back to the sources. We're always putting our own opinions in. But the one who had every right to speak only spoke what was said to him. Only spoke what was said to him. And even when he spoke a hadith, the words that he uttered, still within them are the ma'ani al-wahy. It's all meanings of revelation conveyed from the Prophet ﷺ. You see, shattana ma baynana wa bayna an-nabi ﷺ. You see what a difference between us and the Prophet ﷺ. What a difference between us. Not a matter except for he spoke through the tongue of wahy. Not a word that came, and even according to most of the ulama, that's not restricted just to matters of religion. That's all matters of his life. Everything he ever uttered, it was guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas you and I, we hardly ever speak with guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, guidance from the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and we still claim to be connected to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even though we have such a vast difference between us and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's the crises of this world, the disconnection that we have from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But even with that, let's assume we're people who've taken knowledge. We have another crisis that's afflicted us. The first is disconnection, where people have no connection to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in a real sense. But then when we look at that, even those who've received that knowledge, you would not call them al-warithin al-kummal. These are not complete heirs of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because a complete heir, a complete inheritor takes everything that there is to take. He takes everything that there is to take. But it's as though people assume you're called to come and sit in a class of knowledge, so at the end you're called alim. And that's it. And we have the course, the micro madrasa, and there's a point that the faqih will keep on reiterating. Do not be deluded. At the end of that, you are not a person of knowledge. You are not a person of knowledge. This is a birthright you as a child should have been given by your father and your mother. As a child, you should have been taught what you were required to believe. You should have been taught how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should have been taught everything about that there is to know about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You sit in the durus of Shaykh Ibrahim and inspires you with stories of the Prophet. Your mother should have been telling you those stories as a child when she was putting you to sleep. And it's a failure of parents because of which now we go to madaris and we assume we come out as people of knowledge. No, all we've done is lifted the sin of jahl from our backs. That's all we've done. All you've done at the end of 3 years is now, don't call yourself alim. Now you can worship Allah subhanahu with some light. Some light. You have some basis to worship Allah subhanahu. Like I say to some of the students, at the end, now you have ijazah to go and pray properly, to go and fast properly. That's your ijazah. You want pieces of paper at the end of it. Now, alhamdulillah, you know how to pray. Go and do what's required of you now. But don't go away thinking ahlul ilm. That's all shahadat az-zur. That's all false claims. People coming to learn, to take the badge, to take the title, to be called an alim, qari, hafiz, mufti, whatever. But they're the first ones who are flung into hellfire. The first ones are thrown into hellfire. The qari who did it because he wanted to be called a qari. The alim who did it because he wanted to become alim. First one will be thrown into hellfire. Before the Muslim who drinks alcohol, before the Muslim who's akal al-riba, you condemn the Muslim who commits zina, and rightly so. But why not condemn the one who seeks knowledge for the name and the title? Because he has a worse crime upon him. Why? Because that person, generally the one who does all of those kaba'ir, usually the people of ignorance. You're not a person of ignorance. You know what the Prophet ﷺ came with, but your nafs overtook you, overpowered. Istahwada alayhim shaitan. You were overpowered by the devil. So the crisis that you have within the circles of knowledge, those who are receiving that knowledge, within the people of ilm, is that the ilm, the knowledge has become the goal. The knowledge has become the goal. But you must understand, the goal is not knowledge, the goal is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى. The goal is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The destination is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You never get there until you get رِضَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى مَحَبَّةَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Until you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with you. And you will only know that when you see Malak al-Maut who will say, ارجع إلى ربك راضية مرضية. That's the only time that you'll know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is radhi with you. The only time that you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is content with you and happy with you is when you see Malak al-Maut, the angel of death, and he tells you return back to your Lord and he's happy with you. That's the only time you'll know that. In this world, every single thing that you do in knowledge, every single thing that you do in this religion, you always have this fear and concern that maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not accepted it from you. How can you ever be in a state of contentment and complacency, assuming that you've reached somewhere, when even the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not have? They were not deluded in that manner. You have Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. آتيتني من وعلمتني من تأويل الأحاديث فاطر السماوات والأرض عالم الغيب والشهادة أنت ولي في الدنيا ولا توفني مسلما. Why is he going to say توفني مسلما? Why is Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam saying توفني مسلما? Allow me to die as a Muslim. That you and I think we've got a birthright to enter into Jannah. And Yusuf alayhi salam, who's at the level that, why is it that Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying Alhiqni bis salihin? Allow me to join into the ranks of the righteous. We ask Allah subhanahu Alhiqna fi zumrati Sayyidina Ibrahim. That we want to be in the ranks of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Why is it that the likes of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim salam, they ask Allah subhanahu after building the Kaaba, اجعلنا مسلمين لك, make us Muslims to you, make us submit to you. Anbiya, prophets, they're not deluded. Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi rahimahullah, he says, because they understand the jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They understand the majesty of the divine. They're not deluded. Where they're in the midst of gatherings of knowledge, and people like, we used to think, well, ulama, ahl al-ilm, ashab al-Quran, and so we're all deluded into thinking this. We're all just deluded about our states. If we understood the reality of this affair, we understand that we're worthless. And it's only karam, it's only sharaf, that Allah sharafana wa karramana, that He's put you there, that you can say something about Allah and His Messenger. That you can say something, but do not be deluded to assume that knowledge is the goal. That's not the goal. That's not what the Prophet came with, to come and make you ulama. He didn't come to make you ulama. He didn't come to make you scholars. He came to make you into people, to make you into rijal. He came to change your reality, your nature, to make you into what? What was he sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The greatest khuluq azim, sahib khuluq azim. The greatest praise, not wa innaka la ala ilmin azim. It's khuluq azim. It's not that you are on tremendous knowledge, and he was on the most tremendous knowledge. That's not the madh. That's not the ultimate praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's khuluq azim. It's the one of tremendous character. You can carry all the knowledge that you want. If there's no change within you, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And that's why we mentioned before, to repeat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns twice in the Quran people of knowledge. And He uses the worst type of animals. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار. The likeness of the Jewish rabbis and those who follow their footsteps, not following the way the prophets, following the way the rabbis, who receive humil in modern Arabic, tahmil is to download something. That's what's happening. They receive the revelation. They're receiving the Torah from Musa alayhi salam. لم يحملوها, but they didn't carry it within themselves. Like the Prophet, Quran and Yamshi, it was revealed to him and he became the Word. He became the Word. He was the Quran. You want to study the Quran, study the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You want to study the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, study the Quran. The two of them are they're inseparable. You want to understand meanings of Nubuwwah, study the Quran. You want to understand Quran, you can never understand the Quran without studying the Prophet ﷺ. They are inseparable. Quran in Yamshi, his Quran walking, he's in motion, you're seeing everything, which is why he does not need to speak. Qaleel al-kalam, so few words. In a majlis, in a gathering with the Prophet ﷺ, not like you and I, we speak half an hour and so on, just trying to get a point across. It's because we're not the Prophet ﷺ. We're one or two words, he can say everything that needs to be said. But in addition to that, you didn't even need to say anything. You just observe the Messenger ﷺ, and you've got everything you need. You just observe the Prophet ﷺ, and you've got everything you need. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he's not min al-mukthirin fi riwayat al-hadith. He's not the likes of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah relating over 5,000, his daughter Sayyida Aisha over 2,000 hadith, over 100 hadith, and that's it. That's all he transmits. But he took everything he needed to take. And he took more than anybody else could ever take. Why? Because he's just with the Prophet all the time, observing, taking, and being like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So hummilu Torah, they received the Torah, lam yahmiluha, but it didn't come into them. You could not see it within them. And the problem we have a lot of people hafiz the Quran, but look at them. Where's the Quran within? Can you see the Quran walking around? You see Ahl al-Ilm, where's the knowledge within him? Not his words. Where is it within him? Can you observe that knowledge within that person? If you can't, then what's the point of that? Because then that person of knowledge of Quran who's not carrying within him, كَالْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. Allah says just a donkey, it's like a donkey, carries books. And we've got a lot of donkeys amongst us. A lot of people who carry knowledge in Quran, but it's not within them. It's not within them. The second likeness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, person of knowledge who's divorced from knowledge. He's a person of knowledge, but divorced and detached from knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the example. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ الَّذِي آتَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا فَانْسَلَخَ مِنْهَا. Relate to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, relate to them the news about the one that we revealed. We gave him our signs. This is the one that Mufassiri mentioned, Bal'am. Bal'am was somebody from Bani Israel who received secrets of revelation. Bal'am. فَانْسَلَخَ مِنْهَا, but he turned away from it, he withdrew from it. He had that knowledge, فَانْسَلَخَ مِنْهَا فَكَانَ مِنَ الْغَاوِينَ وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ بِهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if we wanted, we could have raised him with that knowledge. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised us through knowledge. But this one, he turned his back on that knowledge. He turned his back. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ بِهَا وَلَكِنَّهُ أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ. But he clung onto this earth. With that knowledge, he had openings through wealth and position and fame and repute. That's all he saw that knowledge from. أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ. Now here the likeness, the second likeness. Man of knowledge, who distanced himself from Allah through that knowledge. فَمَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ. Allah compares him to a dog. Two people of knowledge referred to in the Quran, but they're distant from their knowledge. The first one, كَالْحِمَارِ, like a donkey. The second one, like a dog. كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ إِن تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْهِ يَلْهَثْ أَوْ تَتْرُكُهُ يَلْهَثْ. Imagine a dog that's thirsty, that its tongue is hanging out, it's panting. That's how Allah describes that person. If you chase it away, tongue's hanging out, yalhath. Aw tatruku, if you leave it alone, the same, just a dog. That's all he is, just chasing this dunya, like a lowly dog. That's the nature of people of knowledge. So there's no praise, there's no pride, there's nothing in knowledge, unless you shape yourself and mold yourself on what the Prophet came. Because that's the purpose of knowledge. Otherwise, condemned into hellfire. The first of people of hellfire from this ummah are people of knowledge. Otherwise, you know better than a donkey, you know better than a dog. That's what knowledge is. That's what knowledge is about. It's to move away from that reality and go to the Muhammadan reality. The reality of what the Prophet ﷺ, he came with. Nasallallahu salam wal afiyah. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam.